Welcome back, folks, to WWE Network and Chill, where every single Monday right here on the show, I break down all the original content that I watch on the WWE Network. And today we're talking WWE Unfiltered with Renee Young and Kevin Owens from late 2015. So this is not a new episode. A lot of these Unfiltered episodes, as I've talked about here on the show in the past, I know I talked about the Seth Rollins episode about a month or so ago, a month and a half ago at this point. And it was a great episode. It was only 6 minutes long. This is a bit longer, and almost, I think, 12 minutes, somewhere around there. A bit longer, 15 minutes maybe. But it's Kevin Owens and Renee Young. You can't go wrong there. They have awesome chemistry as Canadians. They get into that detail in a moment. I'll get into that momentarily. They talk about that quite a bit. But yeah, Unfiltered is always great. This episode is from late 2015, September 30th to be exact. Why am I talking about it now? Just because it's not the first episode. That was the Seth Rollins one. I was just on a Kevin Owens binge just recently, and I was going to talk about it last week, but the 70s Legends episode of Table for Three got uploaded, so I talked about that instead, which was also a great show. All the shows in the network are pretty much good, other than like Holy Foley, but that's the exception. But Table for Three, Unfiltered, all those shows are great. This episode was no exception. So Renee Young, Kevin Owens sitting down in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, right before SummerSlam 2015. You get some bloopers, so to speak, before the episode even begins, with Renee Young and Kevin Owens trying to talk about Canadian shit. And then you hear New Day practicing their routine for later on in the night at SummerSlam, which is pretty interesting. And I think maybe TakeOver stuff too. But I think it was SummerSlam Sunday from 2015. So Owens, he takes exception to being hosted and to having the show in the stands, just because he brings up how Randy Orton, and I'll talk about his episode at some point too. His episode with Renee Young on Unfiltered was fucking great. One of my favorites, if not my favorite. But he says that, Seth Rollins got the lunch and Randy Orton got to be on the top of a hotel. Why is Owens, getting his show in the fucking bleachers and the stands at a wrestling show? He wasn't too happy about that, in kayfabe, obviously. But Renee Young calls him out for not being a true Canadian. Owens says, and it's because Owens says he doesn't like hockey and he doesn't like beer. Now, I already loved Kevin Owens. The moment he joined WWE, I was kind of a fan of the end of his ROH run too when I was first introduced to his work. I knew who he was prior to that point, but I had never watched Ring of Honor. But anyway, as soon as he said that, I said, I fucking love Kevin Owens. This guy's a gem. Not really the hockey part. I don't really care too much about hockey either, but the beer thing. And you would think that he looks kind of like a beer guy that's not like a fat joke or anything, but he looks like that. He looks like a guy that would enjoy a good beer every once in a while. But no, he does not like beer. He says it's disgusting. He tried it once when he was a kid, was not a fan. And he said he was good at hockey, but he never really liked it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I don't like beer either. I don't drink. So that's why I said I was a big fan of KO after hearing those comments. But yeah, he says he just doesn't care about sports. He doesn't care about games. They're really fighting over nothing. So that's why he's a wrestling fan. But he said that he used to watch Renee Young on The Score, and that kind of gets some brownie points with Renee, with Kevin Owens, and he calls and she had called him a bad Canadian as a result. And then he tells a story about having 3 dogs and a toad. And this whole long, expanded story, I don't know if I could do it justice by reciting it here, but he said they almost got a 3-legged cat, and his kid was playing with it. They have a kid named Owen, so, and I think, his name is Kevin Owens, and I think he got some, I think that was one of the names that was presented with, that he got to choose. I don't really remember. They don't discuss it here, his in-ring name, but anyway, so yeah, his son Owen, they got to play around with this 3-legged cat they were going to adopt, and the lady says, you can't have it because they already have other pets, and the cat's been through trauma, so that was pretty kind of heartbreaking. So Kevin Owens was in a getting a pet mood, so they went to a local store, and they got a toad instead. And they later found out, or even before finding out what they found out, they had to return it to the store. They couldn't travel with it. They've had it for about 3 months by this point. They couldn't bring it on the plane with them to Orlando, so they had to return it to the store. And they later found out it was a lethal toad, that if it bit you or if it spit on you or something, it could kill you, which was pretty funny. So cool little story there. I mean, Kevin Owens is a very well-documented animal lover, zoologist. If you follow his Twitter, if you've seen his Vines and shit, it's pretty funny stuff. But he also talks about holding a koala and going to a zoo with Cesaro, Harper, and Seth Rollins, which is quite the cast of characters. And they showed some pictures, and I would just love to see those 4 in their natural habitat, so to speak. That'd be great to get a show on the network of just those 4 Owens, Cesaro, Harper, and Rollins going to the zoo together. That'd be priceless. But he talks about, as we kind of already know, naming his son after Owen Hart, who was one of his favorite wrestlers growing up, and how he had heard stories that Owen Hart was always cool to be around. Everyone always liked Owen, so that he thought that'd be a cool name for his son. And his wife was not completely sold on it, but when they were finding a new place, and the place was previously occupied by a boy named Owen, that's when they went with the name Owen officially. It was too good to not go with at that point. And they talk about Kevin Owens bringing him on the road. I think he had brought him on the road a couple times in late 2015, which is pretty cool. And they also showed the footage of Kevin Owens' son, Owen, reacting to KO's debut on the main roster in that segment with John Cena, how his son's a huge fan of John Cena. It was just surreal for him to experience that, to see his dad on the same screen as John Cena. That was one of the reasons why his son agreed to move to Orlando in the first place, when his dad promised him, Kevin Owens had promised him that he got to, at some point, would be able to interact with John Cena, which was cool. And he said they have a cool little friendship going on now as a result, which is awesome. And they also talk about, to end the episode, Kevin Owens' tendency to trolls, or to kind of own trolls on Twitter. And he appreciates all the support. He doesn't really retweet stuff that, the positive, the good stuff that people tweet towards him. But he gets a lot more fun in just shutting down the idiots, which is completely true. Kevin Owens is one of the best superstars on Twitter, just in terms of how he deals with people, whether it be fellow superstars or whether it be fans or non-fans, haters, I guess, whatever you want to call them. It's fucking great. So, and as soon as they stopped talking about that, the episode was over. That was that. I looked at the clock. I'm like, holy shit, 15, 20 minutes just passed me by. Really, really good episode. I love Kevin Owens, so I'm biased here, but you might enjoy it a bit more. Even if you're not a big KO guy, I think it's worth checking out. I think he might come along, and I think in watching stuff like this kind of makes you a fan of these guys outside of the ring. So definitely check it out. 2 thumbs up. I was on a Kevin Owens binge, as I said, at the start of this show and last week, so that's why I watched it. And which is why I watch anything that I review here for WWE Network and Show. Unless it's a newly added episode of something to the network, usually I just go back and rewatch stuff either I've already seen or stuff I haven't seen yet. A lot of this stuff I've already seen, like the Table for Threes, and network, or rather Unfiltered, and stuff like that. And I just talk about it here. But yeah, so check it out on the network, the Kevin Owens episode of WWE Unfiltered from September 30th, 2015. Next Monday, what I'll be talking about, I honestly have no idea. Just stay tuned, and we'll find out more as the road to WrestleMania rolls on. But in the meantime, folks, have a great rest of your week. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch you guys down the road.